Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the ImPerfect Podcast. I'm Kathy.
And I'm Kennedy. Join us on this week's episode as we discuss intriguing topics and people of interest that will inspire us to explore all of the unique pieces of ourselves.
We are all imperfectly perfect.
We're glad you're here. Hello, and welcome back to the next episode of the ImPerfect Podcast. Today's guest is very close to home, quite literally. Alison Doody, before graduating high school and moving on to other endeavors, was our neighbor for years.
Alison is a fourth-year Mount Allison student studying psychology, and in her spare time, she likes to play bluegrass music, in which her instrument is the mandolin. She also remains active in the community, and what caught our eye with Alison is that she's recently become a volunteer radio host on her very own radio show on CHMA, where she is also a student board member.
It has been several years since either of us have spoken to Alison, but we are very excited to catch up with her and to hear about all of the latest developments in her life. So let's get into the meeting. Hi, Alison. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Super funny. Right before we started recording, we realized that you're just across the street from us right now. So you're in school right now, right? You're studying at Mount Allison?
Yeah, I'm in Sackville most of the time, but came home for my reading week right now. So
Cool.
needed some extra rest.
Yeah, that's, I guess, what it's for, huh?
Mhm.
Why don't you tell us a bit about who Alison is, what your story is, what are some of your interests, some cool things you're doing, just a little bit on you.
Yeah, so I grew up right here in Salisbury, but I traveled a lot when I was a kid around to lots of bluegrass festivals. And so I kind of grew my community that way. It feels like definitely a big family. And so I always like to say that I have more than one home when it comes to when I go into bluegrass. But I grew up with my dad who played music, so we traveled a lot around when I was a kid. And then I kind of just dropped off of bluegrass for quite a long time. Some personal stuff and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But this year I decided that I would go into CHMA, which is our volunteer-led and student-run radio and news campus station. And I was like, what if I made a bluegrass show? So
Fun.
I'm the second ever student to host a bluegrass show. So I do that alongside with Wilson Moore, who is not he's been doing a radio for 40 years. So following in his footsteps in some
Wow.
cases. But it's really fun to talk with him and learn all about how radio helps our bluegrass community, and to be a part of it is really fun. So
Really cool. I don't mean any insult by this, but what do you talk about on the radio show? Because in my brain, because it's very superficial of, okay, bluegrass music. How far can you go into bluegrass music on a radio show?
yeah, so I play a lot of the music, and for example, like all of October I did like spooky stories of like up in the Appalachian Mountains, or even like the
Cool.
last show that I did was ghost stories around New Brunswick.
Okay.
So I did some of those, but I'm hoping to get more into, there's a lot of literature that's around bluegrass music, especially in like universities. And so with my university access, I get access to those documents. So I'm looking through those and seeing how much of bluegrass is a community effort and how much of it is from a musicology standpoint. There's like ethnomusicology, there's all kinds of literature on it. So as I continue on, I'm hoping to bring some of that aspects into the radio show. But for now, I just try to find new bluegrass music that people don't usually hear about or see. I try to bring in like the old stuff that everybody's familiar with, so you get like a balance of it. And then I have a rule where I like to bring in at least one Canadian artist into my show.
Really
So
cool.
so have one Canadian artist song be played on that station. And yeah, so
Yeah, so you're kind of bringing
Super.
awareness to local artists as well, which is really cool.
yeah, it's always fun to bring new music from people who are around the area that might not get to hear their stuff on. And I mean, we are a very small radio station, but it still hopefully brings it to more people who are unaware of that stuff. And I've definitely talked with a lot of people who work alongside me at the station, and they're like, I would have never thought about this type of music before. So it was really fun to introduce people. And then they introduced me to their music as well, which is
Right.
always a fun thing to do. That's for sure.
I'm having that moment myself, thinking like bluegrass. It's a whole like pocket that I mean, I know the name, I vaguely know what it sounds like, but
Mhm.
I didn't know a mandolin was part of it all, and
Yeah.
yeah, all the others that go with it. So that's really
Yeah.
interesting. Is it bluegrass music? I have a question here to ask you
Yeah.
about what makes you feel most inspired or like your best self. Would it be bluegrass music? Would it be doing the radio show? Would it be just being a university student or something about psychology that you're studying that really is like the top of your list right now?
Yeah, so I guess the top of my list right now when it comes to like what inspires me, I mean, my studies inspire me as well, but I've been doing a lot of research into the bluegrass music for my show, and just finding that community that people talk about. Like I always used to talk with dad about, like, he always talked about like the 7 degrees of separation. And I really do believe that it's grown smaller, the 6 degrees of separation I call it now. And to see how much people are connected to and how much people make a community out of it. I mean, growing up, I really do feel like these people are my family. And I mean, for me, the radio show is more of a reconnection.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of um, mental problems growing up. I had a lot of anxiety, and I went into a lot of depression after my grandparents passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And for the 3 years after my grandparents passed away, I didn't touch any music. I would not listen to it outside of going to festivals. I would not pick up my instrument. I would not play. My parents used to talk about how the house became quiet. I wouldn't even sing. I used to sing all the time. I would sing when I was in the kitchen. I would sing anywhere I could. I became quiet. It was nothing.
Mm.
And so through lots of like mental health work, I've definitely come back up to that level. So in some ways, this radio show is more for me than it is for anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm reconnecting with that part of myself that I lost many years ago. So it's definitely that inspires me, where it's like I'm finding my way back into the community that I thought I lost.
Mm.
Because I
I
thought,
love that.
especially when like I was just coming out of therapy, I was thinking, I'm never gonna get it back. It's all gone. I'm never gonna find my way back into what I used to love about the music and my community. But through this radio show, I feel like I can find my connection back into it. And so that's what's really inspiring me right now, where it's like, no matter what dark hole, or no matter where you feel you are in like, or no matter how much despair you feel, it's always there inside of you, and you can find your way back to it. So
That's
it
big.
takes time, but it definitely, you can definitely find your way back to it. And that's my experience.
That's
Good
a
lesson.
really, yeah, it's a really good outlook too. And
Yeah.
I'm just even sitting here thinking and reflecting on our podcast. There's so many things like with hobbies. It doesn't have to be, in radio show or podcast
Mhm.
form, but hobbies and outlets like that do us so well with our mental health. And quite literally, like you said, it kind of rekindled your love and joy in bluegrass music again. So it kind of brought you back in. It also creates like a motivator of something to work towards. And like you said, it's more for you than it is for anybody else, but there's almost this sense of accountability that you have to like put out these shows. And that's what it is for Mom and I too. It's hard to stay consistent and do it on a consistent manner. And but you feel like you have somebody else listening on the other end. So it's something you have to do, but in the mix, it's also providing a lot of joy for yourself. So yeah, that was a lot. Like it was really good.
Yeah.
Really well worded.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I mean, yeah, like because like hobbies can be anything, but especially when it has, if you have that other person, and I mean, it doesn't have to be a big person, but like accountability with keeping yourself just moving forward is always
Yeah.
nice too.
Right.
Yeah. What keeps you going though? I was reading the 4 years in psychology and I was like, whoa, first of all, it's weird because I remember us being younger and it doesn't
I know.
compute in my brain that you should be in your 4th year. But anyways, that's another story. But what keeps you going with everything in your life and what you're doing with school and everything? Psychology is no
Yeah.
easy feat, but good for you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like finding the joy in it is always my outlook on it. Because, like, there are times when I get to a class and I think, oh God, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't like this. I don't want to learn about this. I don't want to be tested on it. Especially for like schooling, like it can get really tough. Like
Yeah.
I remember my second year, I was really feeling it because second year was like the height of everything. My mental health was at its lowest, and I was just really, I was ready to give up. I really was. And I almost dropped out. And my mother was like, don't do that, Alison. Like, just hold on a little bit longer. Because, like, when I would talk to her about my psychology, she could see the spark in my eye that it
Yeah.
gave me and the joy it gave me. So it's always, I guess, remembering like when those times when you're doing the things that you really don't want to do, like you're reading through the paper or you're reading through your textbook or you're studying for the midterm and you're thinking, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do it. You just kind of reel it back and go like, oh, well, this gives you so much joy. Like learning about these things really does give me joy. And so you kind of have to remember that because it's so easy to forget about what brings you happiness. And sometimes it's always nice to just like take a break and then go into those things that you really like. So like I know that in some of my cognitive psychology courses, we'll be learning about stuff that I don't really want to learn, right? But like if I take that avenue of cognitive psychology and I apply it to something that I actually really do enjoy, like I take it into like I really like, and when I was in second year, I was learning about cognitive psychology and I was applying it to music and dementia. So like taking the stuff that you're learning and applying it to something you really do enjoy, which was music and how it affects the brain, I was able to kind of keep that momentum when you come back into it, right? So you won't have the energy for everything all the time, and those down times are great to relax and to just mentally unload. But I guess it's always to keep it in your back of your head that like I really do enjoy these things, even though I feel like I don't like enjoy them right now.
It's just a hurdle. You're
Yeah.
so wise. What the heck? When did you grow up? What the heck is going on?
That's weird.
Yeah.
So let's lead into the next question, which is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like,
Oh yeah.
psychologists or bluegrass players or
Maybe.
something else?
So seeing as this is my last year, I've been thinking about this a lot lately.
Yeah.
So I decided to go into counseling with
Mhm.
like mental health. I'm not sure what avenue, like there's always so many avenues of like there's like child geared counseling, there's all like different
Yeah.
roles.
Yeah,
But I feel like the mental health aspect might be where I'm gonna go forward.
interesting.
Um I was thinking about, and I'm not sure yet. I mean, I'll see when I get there, but I've looked into a lot of like music therapy and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and I feel like that would really take two aspects of my life that bring me a lot of joy and kind of combine them, which is
Yeah.
really
People are
fun.
looking for other options too, because
Yeah.
traditional methods have not, you know, been going to the counselor for 15 years now,
Yeah.
like, are you
Yeah.
making any headway or what? So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
definitely. I
that's,
think that's a great
yeah.
idea.
And that's the interesting thing about psychology too, where it's like it's very subjective. You go into a certain treatment and it's not always going to work for
Right.
specific people.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to have lots of options. And I mean, music therapy and music counseling, I think would be an interesting area for, I mean, I would love to look into it. So I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm just going to let myself figure it out. I'm going to get to like, because I can always get overwhelmed, like, where am I going to go? Right.
Sure.
But
Right.
like, I just want to take my time into it. If I've learned anything over the 4 years, is I have to really take my time with these things, right?
I just
But
realized it's such a different question for you as it is, like, middle age or older people that we have on the show, and we still ask them that same question a lot of times, because as you grow and things change, and it's almost like playing a big game of Tetris, right? These blocks fall down, and now you look at things differently and you want to try out that, and so everybody seems to kind of have an answer for that. And I just realized, yeah, like you're coming to the end of your degree, and it would mean something completely different for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Different
Yeah.
perspectives and different points of life will give a
Yeah.
completely different answer. Yeah.
Yeah, because like when I first started, I wanted to go and pursue a PhD. Like I was in my head, I was like, I'm gonna go through that route. But then I got into second year and I found out that I just didn't really like research. And that's what a lot of PhD work is research.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe this isn't what I really want. So I find that really like you have so much pressure, especially when you move from like when you're taking a big leap like that to a new domain. There's always these people who I find like really pressure you to figure it all out
Yeah.
at that point, right? And it's like if I've like learning through university, it's like you can take your time, right? Like I only decided to go and do counseling last year. So like I really can take my like you can take your time. You don't have to always figure it all out, especially in our world today where I feel like everything is getting faster. People want it
Yeah.
done like this. And it's like that's not how it works. We have to we have to take our time. We're not we're not fast creatures when it comes to that thing. We need to take our time and we need to to figure things out as they come. It's not always going to be this is what I'm going to do.
So very true. And we in the society we live, we need to have all the answers right here, right now. And so, like you said, in just our everyday lives, to slow down feels almost abnormal because we're so used to go, go, go mentality, and we have hardly any time to sit with ourselves. And that's the thing too. We ask people that we have on the show quite a bit these certain questions, and it really throws people for a loop to answer questions about themselves, because a lot of people don't take the time, and I'm just as guilty, to sit back and go, what do I even like to do in my spare time? Or what inspires me? I don't know. Or what do I even want to be when I grow up? And the person happens to be middle-aged and they're like, I don't know, I'm just here doing the things. And so it's, yeah, very good points on the fact that you have plenty of time and you're still young, and it's wise of you to just not pressure yourself to know quite just yet exactly where you're going to end up, but it'll make more and more sense each day for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always like of course, you're gonna have days when you're like thinking like, oh God, I gotta really figure this all out. But like I always like to like give it an hour, let the emotions settle. Cause like we our bodies are made to react quickly to what we think are threats. So you always have to give yourself time to like let the emotions come out and then make decisions, right? Because you can think that you're in a situation that is cornering you, but once you take the time to let the emotions come through, let yourself figure it out, And then you're like, okay, I can see the avenues now. And for me, for a long time, I was in that state of, oh God, I got to figure it all out right now. And I mean, it takes a while to learn to be like, I have to sit back and just calm myself and let the emotions out before I can make a rational decision. And of course, it takes practice. I don't think I'm the best at it. I don't think anybody can be the best at, because we're emotional creatures. So like you're never going to be like 100%. Yes, I'm the most rational person.
Right.
I don't freak out at anything. We're going to have those days. Right. So, but like knowing in your head where like, I can always try to build on this foundation of these mindful techniques and that kind of stuff. It's always a process. It's never always final. It's always a process.
That's a big line too. It's never final. It's a process. Yeah. I guess we'll ask you at this point, we always ask everyone this question, but what makes you imperfect?
Oh, what makes me imperfect? What makes me imperfect? I mean, there's so many. Like I think of things all the time.
I thought for a minute, I thought you were gonna say, I don't know, are there any imperfections? Give me a minute.
I am like, when it comes to how I self-reflect, I see a lot of imperfections in me sometimes, which sometimes it's to my detriment. But like, I just like, I think we're always looking at ourselves in that way too. Like, you can always see the faults. But I guess what makes me in that common humanity is, I guess it's the common humanity, right?
Yeah.
You think you think to yourself like, oh, everybody else has got it better than me.
Yeah.
You know, like I should be working harder. I should be, like, why am I not, I need to be studying more, and I need to be the best version of myself. And it's like, okay, well, everybody has the things that they want to do better, right? Like you have to kind of sit back. But like, I guess right now, especially, I'm thinking like school wise, I'm always thinking like, I should be studying more. I'm not an effective studier. What am I doing? I'm not working hard enough. And it's like, I always had to take that step back, and it's like, you're just doing the best you can, and that's all you can do. But I guess it's that, the common humanity of like, everybody else is doing better than I am.
Somebody's always got it better, right?
Yeah, somebody is always doing better than I am, and I need to get to that level. And
we did an episode just, I don't know, last week or the week before, called White Couches. And it was based off a TikTok video. And it's talking about the other girl who always has it better, and how we see her and we think, oh, well, isn't she perfect? And, and we measure ourselves against her. And then there's this kicker line in there that says, does the other girl know that she's the other girl? Or is she doing the same? Basically, is she doing the same with everyone else, looking at them and aspiring to be? Yeah, it was a really neat episode.
Yeah, and it perfectly what you're saying. It's exactly that. It's just that there's always somebody that's got it better, but the person that I view as higher up than myself, they always see someone else higher than themselves. So there's the end game should be just about yourself and improving yourself, but we're always playing this comparing game with other people because somebody's got it better. But
and it's so sad because we've, like, throughout history, we've created these systems that like really like take that mentality and like 100%, like it just builds upon it, right? Like, if you think about like education and like these systems where it's like it's becoming more of a comparison game. Like Timmy is the highest grade in the class, you should be like Timmy. And it's like, well, Timmy's doing his best and this other person's doing their best. Why are we making them, Why are we
Very
comparing it
true.
that way? Like
Mhm.
my therapist used to say, like, it's equality versus equity, right? Like, why, we need to start making systems where it's equity, like, people are going to have more resources so that we can all get to the same level, right?
Right.
It makes it more fair that way. Because if we're always just saying, well, equality, if it's equal, and then sometimes there's other going to be people that are going to need more resources, and they're not going to become more equal because we need to deal more resources to them and that kind of stuff. So it's always interesting to look at these systems and how, like, they're so based on comparison, and it's like you look at it and you're like, oh my goodness, why? But
Yeah. You're
It's
comparing
a-
apple to oranges, but at the same
yeah,
time, they're going, well, you're all fruit, so figure it
right.
out.
yeah, yeah,
It's how they sell us a lot of stuff too, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Because if you're not without, then what do you need to buy? So,
Right. It's a mind game. Psychology. Whew.
Yeah. The
So,
psycho
what's that?
the psychological mind game. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, literally. So Allison, why don't you share where people can find you with your radio show? I don't know if there's Facebook, Instagram, whatever. If you have little side gigs that you're doing that we don't know about, you're free to share those as well at this time, just so people can know where to find you.
Yeah, so you can find my radio show at c2mayfm.com, and you can listen in live at 7 p.m. on Fridays, or you can go to the current shows and you can find Appalachian Trail and listen to past shows. And I'm on Instagram at Appalachian Trail C2May. It's all one line,
Okay.
and I usually post, like, if we're having sometimes I have like a Halloween special, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So I usually try to post there that we're going on live. But yeah, with the social media ban right now on news, it's a little hard, but we're really trying to connect with people through social media still as
Right.
much as we can when we can. So, but
Absolutely. And
yeah,
I'll share that. I'll write it out in the show notes so that people can
yeah,
do an easy click to find you as well. But
great.
yeah, very cool. I did listen into one of your episodes the other day. I think
Oh,
it's
thank
really
you.
cool what you're doing. And obviously, Mom and I were drawn to it just because kind of the same boat, but not the same boat. But it was just kind of cool because there's an extra connection of
Mhm.
geographical distance,
I
you know?
know, yeah. Really interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 6 degrees of separation.
Right.
It's
Right.
getting smaller every year, I swear. I
It
swear.
is. Well, thank you so much, Allison,
Thank
for taking
you.
the time, especially during your reading week, to speak with us about all things you. We really appreciate it and really excited to see where you end up with things.
Thank you so much. It's been great to reconnect with you guys. It's really,
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah.
I can wave to you right at the window now.
That's cute.
Right. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Allison.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
We'll be
Bye.
talking.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you or someone you know has a unique story to tell, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at theimperfectpodcast@outlook.com.
For more information and how to connect with us on social media, you can visit us at our website, theimperfectpodcast.ca.
And from whichever platform you are listening to this episode, be sure to like, share, and leave us a review. We would really appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode.
We look forward to hearing your feedback and seeing you all find that extra joy and embrace your own imperfect.
See you next week.